Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KMED. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you here on Saturday, January 21st, 2017. Welcome to our show here on KMED. We're both real estate brokers with John L. Scott in Southern Oregon, and we get together with you once a week here on KMED we'll talk about all sorts of real estate-related issues and topics. Through 8 years and almost 400 shows, we've been yapping about this stuff. And well, Joe Brett, we continue to learn so many things and what makes the real estate market what it is in our county. And, you know, it's amazing here. We start 2017. If it's anywhere like it was last year, it's going to be a heck of a year.
We have a lot to talk about. 400 shows, and I've probably learned about 10,000 things about our local real estate industry and the associated industries and machines that work together to make the economy and the region go and grow. So more coming for us today.
Yeah. I mean, off some of our past shows, for some of our new listeners in Josephine County, you can go to realestateshowOregon.com. We're also on YouTube /Real Estate Show Oregon. All of our past shows are there. We have some terrific shows there. Everything from Airbnbs, which is the new normal in housing, I guess you can call that, pre-home inspections. I mean, and on it goes. So we invite you to go back and listen to that. Well, today here on the show, Rob Merriman from Southern Oregon Regional Economic Development is in the house here, Joe. And I can't think, this group, when we came here to the Valley, back in the 80s, so we're going to go back a little bit here with Rob before we get him in here. And these kind of organizations were springing up. And So Ready has been here all those years and has, done, I think, really maybe up and down over those years in terms of how effective they've been, whatever. But they seem to be on a roll right now. Colleen Padilla, who's the director of it, has been on our show many times in the past. So, Rob, you're here as well. So nice to have you on the show today. You got a lot of big shoes to follow.
I know.
Colleen,
I'm feeling the pressure.
Well, this is probably the least pressure zone you'll be in. Well, you also, by the way, Rob is an instructor at the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, who sponsors today's show anyway here. And, I think it's really good. I thought it was smart that you're talking to realtors, because it's important that they hear what you have to say. So just tell me briefly a little bit, Rob, what do you tell? What's your pitch, or what do you say to realtors to get them interested in what So Ready's doing?
Well, I'm a native of the Valley, and I also was a realtor for a period of time as well. And, for years I read the acronym So Ready in the newspaper and had no concept of what that was. Yeah. And so as a starting point, I just feel, having been a realtor, the importance that they need to understand and appreciate who So Ready is and what we do. And I'm not sure that everyone does. So that's been kind of the core message I've been trying to get out to the realtor community and to the community at large.
Yeah. And what's happening today? I mean, here we are. Look at this, Joe. We're at beginning of 2017. And the world has changed so much. I mean, look today. We have a new president in office today. What happens that no one knows.
We communicate.
How it's going to
industry works in a completely different way these days. Yeah.
How has that changed, you think? I mean, I know you're new there in the world, but I'm sure you're learning pretty darn fast there, Ron.
Well, there's just a lot going on. I mean, there's more going on than I certainly had any concept of, and I would imagine most have any awareness of. And it's complicated. I mean, things don't happen just of themselves. So there are a lot of really dedicated folks in a variety of capacities at the state level, the municipality level, private sector, public sector, all kind of pulling together to try to make this thing we call economic development work. And, it sometimes is a bit arduous and maybe more tedious than some would like. I know we just constantly are trying to ask ourselves, what can we say we're getting done so that we don't get distracted and get off to the weeds too much. But it does take a lot of collaboration, and I will say I'm very impressed the more I get out and about and meet with a lot of the folks that represent our valley. I think we have a very unique spirit here, and it's really great to see how transparent and how willing everyone is to come together and try to address problems and come to conclusions that will be profitable for everybody.
Did we give So Ready's formal name, Southern Oregon Regional Economic Development Incorporated? Okay, I'm just checking on that, because it's so easy to say So Ready, and it might just say, who is that? Yeah. But Regional Economic Development is, it's right there.
It's interesting when you talk about this particular line in terms of jobs and the creation of jobs in the economy. Commissioners, and they fork money over to it. Now, And so it seems like, okay, you tell me if I'm wrong because I get my soap here. It seems that they're doing a good job in terms of that, in terms of having somebody in charge of economic development in the area. Now, if I switch that over to housing, Joe, which we've talked about so much over the years, nobody is in charge of kind of the housing issues that we have, you know, but in terms of economic development, that has taken place. It needs to take place in housing somewhat too, but it's happened for economic development.
Yeah, SoReady actually goes back 30 years, and they were founded when both Josephine County and Jackson County fathers came together to unite and kind of, to Joe's point, said, you know, we don't need to be doing this, sectionalized and in silos when it comes to economic development. We should be approaching it as a region because we have, just as MLS came to that conclusion not too many years ago, right?
That's right.
Good example.
Yeah, they combined forces, and you have more power when you think regionally. You have more assets to offer outsiders. You have just more capacity. And so that's how SoReady came into being. So regional is a big part of our acronym. That's how we think. It's Jackson, Josephine County.
And think if each city and each of the counties try to individually reach out, the staff time and the effectiveness of the effort, I think, is diminished when you try to replicate it over a number of different agencies, whereas you've got one that represents all of the communities and the counties collectively and for the benefit of the region. It makes perfect sense that it's come into fruition, and now it's really kind of starting to hit its stride. I think it took some while for SoReady to learn what the region needed from it and what it could provide for the region. But with that 30-year process, you got to say that some really important things have happened that our valley would be in worse shape for otherwise.
They become much more realistic in what the expectations are, because I can think when these organizations first started, people like me or people who lived here thought they're going to bring in all these jobs, and these businesses are going to come in here, and we're going to, you can recruit businesses, you're going to come here, and we're going to have lots of jobs. Yeah. That did not turn out to be what it really was about. It's mostly about what you have here. How can you grow what you've got here and help and do all of those things, but have a base approach to it, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the state, I think there's maybe 8, maybe as many as 10 economic development agencies across the state of Oregon. Each of them has a slightly different flavor in the way they operate, and we're certainly unique compared to others in that we have some tools in our toolbox that are, a little different than others. But in our case, we're a federally designated enterprise zone. So that brings with it some additional things that we have to offer in terms of enterprise zone status that can potentially offer companies some tax abatements, things like that. We have a loan fund through the USDA that we're managing that we can offer as in financing incentives. So there's some unique things that our economic development group here in Southern Oregon has that other economic development groups in Bend or Portland or Salem don't have. But all of us kind of have a similar mission in trying to focus again on what we try to focus on. I talked with you about earlier, and that's
how do you have the demand for what you're doing? Because you're right. I mean, Joe, you know that in our business that my sister and I own over in Cape Falls, we got a loan from the Economic Development Group there, a SCOED, and that helped so many things for people in a small business like ours to do. And that just totally convinced me that these organizations are really good for business, especially for small businesses who the big banks won't even talk to you.
Which are the lifeblood of our communities
they won't
in a lot
even
of
talk
ways.
to you. But SoReady, you've got those kind of loans and all that, those types of programs out there already, don't you?
Yeah. As I shared with you earlier, I think we do try to narrow our focus a bit so we can kind of be a little more precise in what we do regarding business. So our focus is primarily what we call traded sector. It's a kind of a buzzword, but it basically means those businesses whose goods and services are sold outside the region. And those dollars that come from those types of businesses tend to be those dollars are like the gasoline to a local economy. They come into the economy with a multiplier effect that is unparalleled. So while traded sector companies and businesses may represent only 10% of a local economy, those dollars have an impact that's far beyond the 10%.
That really caught my ear, too, when you said that. And where does that additional impact come from? Are those people coming to us to work in these jobs? Are we creating jobs or a mixture?
Yeah, so it's a lot of those things. So when you look at the multiplier effect of dollars spent, I mean, the analogy I heard was like if a bank makes a loan and you trace that loan and how it goes out into the community, it goes to certain people, they spend certain portions of that loan, and eventually it comes back in the form of deposits, which then become loans that go out again, and that's what kind of the multiplier effect looks like. So in retail, which are important jobs. And retail in our economy is a big thing. I mean, our tourism, drives a lot of retail here. There's a definite multiplier effect of visitors that come in and spend dollars here. And you see the big box stores we have are a regional hub in many respects for that. Traded sector, though, you look at supply chain. So traded sector companies are purchasing supplies, and in some cases, their supply chain is local. So the things that go into the goods and services they're selling are produced locally or purchased from local vendors, and then they pay local employees, and it just goes on and on.
But their products, you say, go outside. Are sold outside the area.
Right. So unlike retail,
Give me an example of somebody like that. I'm just trying to think. You have somebody who okay.
So again, I mean, I would say it falls in kind of a couple general categories, either advanced manufacturing, and we used to say manufacturing, but these days advanced manufacturing is really where it's at. So our timber economy has evolved tremendously since the days of, logging and everything that took place here. And so timber products in Boise Cascade now are doing amazing things at their plants, where a lot of what used to be done by a very labor-intensive type of operation can be done now through computerized machinery. So very few people on the floor can run multiple machines, but it takes a much higher skilled person,
to do that.
almost engineer level type, skills. And they're producing, a Master Brand Cabinets, for instance, in Grants Pass produces a lot of the cabinets that are ordered through the major big box stores,
Really?
and they're pumping out an amazing number of cabinets to all over the country from Grants Pass.
Really? Yeah. That's See, I asked you about that.
Sounds like
and
Gel
you see
Lynn.
that Gel Lynn could be another company that would fall into that category. I'm sure Amy's Kitchen, I suppose, would fall into that too, wouldn't it?
They sell them
certainly
all over,
is one of So Ready's big success stories, I would say, is Amy's Kitchen and what they brought into the Valley. They're still here. They're expanding.
Boy,
that's what you
I know
really
a number
want,
of people that have been employed out there and have had a real nice boost to their lives because of the wages and benefits that have come with that.
Yeah. We're talking, by the way, with Rob Merriman, the Community Development Manager for So Ready, Southern Oregon Regional Economic Development, today here on the Real Estate Show about how that connection of jobs and housing and rental market, all that ties together, because if you don't have any jobs, you're not going to have much of a housing market.
Should we ask Rob if he brings too many jobs and people to the area, how are we going to build enough houses for him? Because where are we going to put them?
Well, as you say, but Bill, bringing people to the area is different from having people here who have jobs, who have the businesses and have them expand, because it's a heck of a lot cheaper to do it that way, I would assume, than it is to try to recruit somebody here if you got somebody already here.
Yeah, being a native of here, I'm sensitive to the fact that growing up, growth was almost a nasty word,
You
right?
bet, yeah.
And I think it's really more about just being responsible with what you have, the resources you have. And I think I know that on the planning level, when it comes to things like housing issues, for instance, I think that there's a lot of discussion taking place right now about how can we be responsible we want to be good stewards of our open space, but we want to be we have to address the supply issues that we face in terms of housing. So it's neat again to see the kinds of attitudes that are demonstrated locally by our leaders that they want to make the best of what we have, and it's not growth for growth's sake. It's being responsible.
All right. Let me ask you. I saw the new president of Rreal Community College was at Rotary recently at our club and spoke and. She talked about, they passed a bond, here in our valley to help them support technical trainings and things like that. What's the one thing, Joe, that we've heard on our show from so many people who've been our guests? No skilled labor.
Construction trades and
just
skilled labor
in general is not out there. Do you see that, Rob? Is that something that when you get in meetings with your group and So Ready and people, What is that like for
Yeah,
you?
that's, well, again, I mean, when you start looking at advanced manufacturing and tech, obviously that takes a skill set that's a very specific type thing. And so it's something that's very much a concern to us if we're going to either grow the businesses that are here in manufacturing or attract those to come in that we want to bring in. That workforce is probably their first question, or right at the top
yeah.
three anyway.
Even for expansion. I mean, if you're expanding
Exactly.
your business that's currently here, you have to have a workforce for it. Do you guys speak with RCC? Is RCC
Absolutely.
going to do? I really am hopeful, seriously, that RCC is going to be able to come through in this promise that the voters gave them, this pledge that they're going to come through with technical training. Because we really need it. Really, really badly here.
On several fronts.
I'm very impressed with, we have a new leadership at both SOU and RCC, and both presidents have expressed how they're very attuned to being sensitive to what the community is saying in terms of what the needs are. And we're just in a culture right now where that's the mindset of education. It's great.
Yeah.
And we have workforce here that just needs to have the opportunity to train and educate to serve these new jobs. We got to provide that bridge for our residents to be able to take that step and meet those needs.
We're talking about change so much, Joe. Isn't that true? We do. We have to keep changing to adapt to the new realities of our time. Hey, the Real Estate Show here on KMED. We got a break coming up. We're coming right back. Don't forget, check out all of our shows at realestateshowOregon.com. The Real Estate Show rolls on here on KMED. January 21st is our date here on AM 1440. We got a couple FMs along the way. Joe now, 106.7 and 93.3 FM. Look at that.
Hey to all our friends up there in Joco.
Yeah, it's great to have you along. You know, the real estate market in Josephine County follows so much of Jackson County's in terms of just a lot of, they're similar in so many ways. And, people start looking here and end up there. I think that's one of the things that I found is they may come into Medford area first and look and not find anything. And, well, hey, there's wonderful, beautiful properties in Josephine County, and many times they're more affordable.
More affordable than some of those rural properties that are really attractive to our out-of-state immigrants that come here.
Next week here on the Real Estate Show, again, Sharon and Howard Johnson from Age Friendly Innovators will be here, and we hope you'll join us for that next week.
It's too bad you won't be here, Pete, because Age Friendly Innovators is a subject. Well, it's closer, dear to your heart than mine, certainly.
Well, it's this is my birthday week, and I hit that magic age of 65. I'm now Medicare. I'm a Medicare
that
recipient.
is hard to believe.
I didn't think I'd ever see 65, but anyway.
You're still young at heart, though.
Anyway.
That's a good thing.
All right. Well, today here on the Real Estate Show, Rob Merriman, who's from Southern Oregon Regional Economic Development, is with us in the house talking about jobs and all the kinds of different things that are happening regarding the effort to create and build on jobs, have a healthy economy here in Southern Oregon. Before we change the topic, it is good to hear that the collaborations are out there that you talk about, Rob, with other groups and governments. We are united in our efforts, it seems like, to have economic development be a priority for us. Isn't it funny how that works and what you can be successful when you actually put your heads together to make it work?
And I think another model that is an analogy to that are the travel organizations that regionally now are really pulling their resources, their personnel, and their efforts together, because together they are stronger to attract the visitors, just like to attract the businesses.
Right. There's two examples. Now we need a third one for housing in Jackson and Josephine County. Seriously, we need to have some sort of concentrated effort.
Meeting of all those
this.
Minds, the developers and the planners.
The market's not taking care of this. Too many abstractions. You've got Airbnbs, you've got vacation rentals, you've got all sorts of things affecting the real estate and the rental markets and so on. Anyway, as we go along here, well, Rob, I'm sure that when you have meetings with the meetings that you go to, I can't let you get out of here without asking you, what if you talked about the recreational marijuana world that we're in now in terms of economic development and jobs? Because I assume, Joe, that's got to be a huge impact in our in the economy right now of the two counties.
Yeah, it comes up almost everywhere I go.
Really?
And most people have the same reaction I gave you, where they roll their eyes and they just kind of bite their tongue. I don't know per se that it falls in our wheelhouse, but it's the ramifications of it are certainly hard to ignore. You mentioned the issues with availability of lands. Clearly, there's been an acquisition of a lot of property for the purposes of growing that I don't think anybody really anticipated, particularly as it affects the industrial properties that we have, which really aren't that prolific already. Right. So that just kind of put us even further behind the 8 ball. So that kind of hurts a little bit when you don't have a building or a property that fits the bill when you get an inquiry coming in and you can't show anything. And I know you guys can relate to that from the residential side. The folks I speak with in the counties and municipalities are struggling with a lot of the unintended consequences that came from this whole thing. We've launched into it with both feet, but we're kind of now are beginning to realize that a lot of the issues coming up for us in the Rogue Valley, for the same reason that we have such a burgeoning wine industry here, we're becoming very well known for what we grow here,
right?
And so a lot of the funds that were set aside through the OLCC to monitor a lot of this stuff were focused on the retail point of sale,
right.
but not really on the source. So, if when it comes to policing, for lack of a better term, those that are participating in the ways that they should be in terms of doing this legally and going through.
Do you think? My question is, do you think? I mean, do you think that's so ready? And I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but do you think that the business community of the government are going to treat this as a resource, Joe, as a Rob, as a viable industry? I mean, that's out there, because you just talked about earlier, Rob, about. You support businesses that make things and sell them outside of the area. Well, this is happening in this business, obviously, and they're employing people. They're coming out of the shadows, remember, and I can't wait to see how much tax revenue comes to the cities when that's going to be reported into what that's going to be.
It's not going to stay a secret for very long when you've got half of Cheech and Chong up here creating their own brand of marijuana and putting their name on it. Cheech Marin has got there are a couple of well-known celebrities now that are up here with their own grows that are going to be marketed today.
It is, but that doesn't matter. The question, though, is that will the people who are here, you can talk about that all the time. It can grow all you want, you can make your own. But unless the organizations in this valley come together and help this industry, look at what it can be. I'm saying in terms of jobs, in terms of economic development, it's already happening.
Yeah, there may come a time when that comes around to us. I don't think we're there yet. As speaking for So Ready, I'm confident that the state is looking at that industry as a potential source of revenue that they are welcoming. And I think that it's very evident from what you see happening with the other states that have come on board as of the last election cycle that this is clearly something that's growing in acceptance, and it's growing in its kind of validity in the business community. And just anecdotally, I was coming back from a trade show on an airplane. The gentleman in front of me was a young guy, very clean cut, looked like a linebacker on a college football team or something. And I overheard him talking to the guy sitting next to him, and he was at a conference in Las Vegas on marijuana grows. And, so it's not just kind of your stereotypical Cheech and Chong kind of guys. There's some serious business people that are looking at this.
Hey, man, don't diss Cheech, because he's going to make more money than he ever did off his Cheech and Chong days.
Well, but what they are young entrepreneurs.
They
are getting into this business, and they're also getting into the wine business, and they're also getting into the organic farming business and things like
Pete,
that.
I've told
that's
you
really good.
I've told you there are students at SOU that make money trimming and working within the industry already. That's helping them put themselves through college. They don't really necessarily have an interest in the product itself, although it's a job they can work very flexibly into their schedules, and there are some economic benefits.
It'll
for
be
sure.
interesting when Rob comes back and in the future, and we ask that same question: what are the discussions at the level which you are at in terms of this business and this industry here? Because it affects real estate, it affects everything. It affects banking, it affects jobs. Anyway, so we'll see how that goes.
It's going to be an ongoing.
It's an ongoing. There's no answer today. It's an ongoing discussion, but it certainly is there. Tell me about your relationship and how Southern Oregon University's School of Business fits into this. We meet how many SOU grads who were business majors who were in business in this valley, right? Tell me what your experience is with that, Rob.
Well, actually, it just came from a presentation about a week ago where SOU put on a fabulous presentation to some of us that were representing various agencies and giving us kind of an update and a snapshot of all that they have going on. And the president herself was there, as were many of the faculty, and this was when they were still technically on vacation or out, of session. So it was really just impressive to see how many of them were there and how passionate they were about what they're doing. I think the bottom line for me was just realizing they're demonstrating a very collaborative, very open-minded attitude about wanting to be responsive. They realize that the number of high school seniors going directly into four-year institutions is shrinking, and they need to be responsive. So in the Medford campus of SOU, they currently have a program for advanced program for leadership. It's kind of in the umbrella of leadership that's for people that have been in advanced forms of the workforce beyond entry level, special cohorts of small groups while they're working that addresses the needs that SOU is hearing from the business community on what skill sets do you feel we need to be designing our curriculum around, and they put these cohorts together of students and do that. It's great.
And I've got to feel like we have our own University Board of Trustees now with that kind of local control and the ability to network and connect with people locally that you couldn't get at the State Board of Higher Education level. I think that will only help the cause.
More responsive to local needs.
And knowledgeable of what the region needs.
That's a good point. Anyway, we're with Rob Merriman from So Ready here on the Real Estate Show today. And January 21st, we got one more segment to go. They have a big event coming up. We're going to talk about that right after this. The Real Estate Show rolls on here on KMED. January 21st is our date. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you here. You believe this? We're like almost through January already. We just celebrated like the first of the year, didn't we? I mean, it goes so fast.
We're winding down.
Yeah. The Super Bowl, the end of our holiday season is on the horizon, isn't it?
I'm not so excited about the Super Bowl anymore after the
the whole holiday thing is
Aaron Rodgers kind of really was a buzzkill on my whole holidays thing
the whole holiday season's kind of ended.
My team was going to actually be there for the Super Bowl for once to finish it off. Our holidays go from Halloween to the Super Bowl here on the Real Estate Show, just so Rob knows.
Rob, you don't know that. You say, what are you
Thanksgiving
doing?
And Christmas is Thanksgiving and New Year's is too short of a window.
Well, we're with Rob Merriman from the Southern Oregon Regional Economic Development here on the Real Estate Show today, and we've learned a lot today. I've really enjoyed this because I'm really encouraged to hear you say that the collaborations are out there, that RCC and SOU are both participating in this. Joe, it was good to hear you say about that the SOU board, the local board, is having an impact. I mean, that's good to hear. And you were just telling me, Rob, about business and educators, and you take people, actually teachers out. Tell me just a little bit about that.
We have monthly tours where we take members and members of the education community out on tours of the local manufacturers, and we alternate back and forth between Josephine County and Jackson County, and the purpose is to familiarize them with, and again, I'm speaking from personal experience, blown away at some of the really sophisticated manufacturing that's taking place that I had no idea was going on, and I'm a native. So these educators then get an opportunity to see the opportunities that are in our valley for fairly sophisticated jobs that not only require a fair amount of training but pay well. And so that helps them then, and as we talked about, these educators now I think are very tuned in to providing kids a pathway to finding success, whatever that means for them. It may be a job, it may be a 4-year degree, whatever, but knowing that this aspect is taking place in our valley better equips them to be exciting in their classrooms, get the kids fired up, speak with specificity about what's going on here. It's a good thing.
There might even be some 2-year programs could lead to those positions that the commitment to go 4 years and the cost is a lot to get that degree too, and not always in the in the motivation of certain kids. I mean, it's nice to have those options for sure.
And it's just manufacturing is not what people think it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's now something much cleaner, much more sophisticated.
It's really encouraging to hear you say that. What's the most amazing thing that you've seen in the manufacturing world?
There's such cool companies out there. We have a company here called Quantum Innovations. They're in a little facility off Vilas Road. You never even know they existed. They were named in Oregon's top 100 businesses to work for. They're just an amazing company, worldwide business, but they do coatings for lenses. And they just have this team of engineers that are very bright, and the gentleman that's the CEO there has a really unique way that he's structured his company that's very innovative, very different than any other company I've ever seen. And again, they're just totally under the radar. You wouldn't even know they're there. And then you go inside the facility and you see all these great things happening. It's awesome.
Now, on the other side of the spectrum, Rob, we've had businesses leave, right? I mean, like Guitar Center and I know some other ones. What is there? I mean, obviously you don't want that to happen. How can we prevent that more?
Yeah, that hurts. I mean, that hurts.
Really does.
Well, and I think in many cases they get absorbed into a larger company where they're located in California or wherever, and that's hard to kind of fight that. But it just again goes back to those fundamentals that we talked about that every company needs, and that's the thing that we have to keep our eye on. Whether it's workforce training, housing, affordable housing for their workers, transportation. Those kinds of, we'd love to tout lifestyle, and I'm all about lifestyle. We've got a great one here.
Outstanding,
but that's not a cure-all for very real concerns that people have about their employees.
It doesn't make up for, the pretty scenery doesn't make up for
if you have all those other elements, and then you have the outdoor and the attractions that we do, that could be the deciding or the swaying factor for sure.
Well, I remember telling Joe last year about this time I was going to the Southern Oregon Business Conference that So Ready put on. I went with Mike Fry from Paradox Media invited me to go, who works with us.
That's right.
So Ready, by the way, our friends from Paradox. And anyway, and I remember telling you, I couldn't believe some of the people who I saw there who were speakers and what they were doing in this valley who I had no idea. Yep. That's really the thing. Now, you've got the Southern Oregon Business Conference coming up again. It's coming up this next week. January 26th is the date. Tell us what you got on the agenda for that.
Yeah, so that'll be Thursday the 26th. It's from 1:30 to 5:30 down at the Inn at the Commons. We have several speakers lined up. We have Rebecca Pommering from Moss Adams. She's going to speak about workforce. A lot of discussion taking place now with millennials in the workforce. What does that mean? How is that changing the dynamic for employers and that kind of thing? So she's going to be speaking on multi-generational workforce. We'll have an economist from University of Oregon, speaking about our economy locally and doing kind of an overview of that. Our keynote speaker is fumbling for his name here. He's speaking on disruption, John Roberts. Yeah, and he's going to be giving a talk that applies to not just the economy, but just kind of life in general, and how technology and some of the things that have happened. We talked about Uber as an example, kind of where we've had some interesting things evolve as a result of disruptions.
Game changers,
that have been game changers, exactly.
Changers,
So that'll be fascinating. And then, as Pete mentioned, every year we always have a representative from our local business community, the three pillars that we work on: launch, relocate, and prosper. We'll have a speaker in each of those categories, somebody who has been raised up as an entrepreneur locally, somebody who relocated from outside the region, and somebody who represents a business that's growing here and has been here.
Outstanding.
And they'll share kind of their perspectives on what they see happening and what the challenges are they're facing. And that kind of thing.
I'd pay for the ticket just to hear about somebody has figured out millennials. It sounds like. So I'd pay just to hear that. That's good information to have.
See, that's just because you're around them at the SOU all the time. You're right. And you see, you go, where are they going to work? What are they going to do?
So those tickets, you can get those at the So Ready website, which is soready.org. And if you go under events, you'll see a link there, and you can register there. But it's a really well attended event.
It's a big event, and people who are interested in business, that's really a place to go and see what's happening, because you certainly get the good information.
What day is the 26th?
It's Thursday.
Thursday. Next Thursday. It's coming Thursday. So well, good luck with that, and it's always a good thing. So you can get a hold of Rob, by the way. It's So Ready. He's probably pretty easy to find. So you can. How can someone get a hold of you if they need to? By the way.
Well, they can call me there at the office.
Yeah.
It's 773-8946. Yeah, that's the best way.
Google him and so ready you can find it. Anyway, that'll do it.
Great show, Rob. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, that'll do it for the Real Estate Show here on KMED. Hey, have a great week, everybody. We're back next week with you with Howard and Sharon Johnson from Age Friendly Innovators. In the meantime, you have a great week, everybody. God bless you all, and we'll see you next weekend here on KMED.
You've been listening to The Real Estate Show on KMED Radio, presented by the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, along with John L. Scott Real Estate of Southern Oregon and Bank 34 Mortgage. For guest contact information, download our free app, or to watch a past show, visit us online at realestateshowOregon.com. This show is produced by Table Rock Productions. Join us again next weekend for Southern Oregon's one and only Real Estate Show on KMED. And thank you for making the Real Estate Show part of your weekend.